Hello, everyone, as you are streaming into the room here. So nice to see so many names. Thank you for making the time to join us this evening. My name is Michael. I'm the events coordinator and publicist at Annie Bloom's Books. For those of you who aren't familiar with the store, we're located in Portland, Oregon, in the heart of Multnomah Village. We've been around for 42 years now, and we are still plugging along. Our store is currently closed to browsing, as it has been for the last 10 months now during the pandemic. But the staff are at the store every day from 9 a.m. to 6 p.m. to answer phones and reply to emails. They love to hear from people who are looking for book recommendations, so get in touch. Admit someone else here. And another someone else. They're pouring in here. Sorry, I'm having a hard time admitting this person. Come on. Okay. And another one. And another one. This is great. Yeah, so get in touch with the people at the store. Our website is always open. You can shop at annieblooms.com day and night. We offer curbside pickup, local delivery, and shipping, and we admit more people in to the event tonight. We have some other great readings that are coming up really soon. On Thursday, next week, Thursday the 4th at 7 p.m., we have Jared S. Blank. He's a local author. His book, Running the Distance, is about living with dyslexia and his running of the World Marathon Challenge, which is 7 marathons on 7 continents in 7 days. That does not sound possible. He did that to raise awareness and $50,000 for the International Dyslexia Association. On 4 more people coming in. Welcome, welcome to those who are coming in. And this other person who's also coming in. My name is Michael. For those of you who are just coming in. Zane. Hello, Zane. On Monday, February 8th at 7 p.m., we have local author Meg Weber with another local author, Joshua Moore. Meg's memoir is titled A Year of Mr. Lucky, and Joshua's is Model Citizen. And then on Tuesday, March 9th, we have another mystery author book launch. Philip Margolin will be reading from his new Robin Lockwood thriller, A Matter of Life and Death. And then we have others that are coming up that you can read about on our website. Tonight, we are super excited to be hosting Dana Haynes. We have Dana's new book, Sirocco, on our shelves now, along with its predecessor, St. Nicholas, Salvage and Wrecking. You can order them both at the link that I am about to put in the chat right now, after I admit another person. This is so great. Boom, there it is, that link right there. You can order both the books from there. There's going to be a reading and some other little fun things. And then there's going to be a Q&A session at the end. Dana's going to tell you about more stuff. But first, I'm going to tell you about Sirocco, the new book. A serial bomber is wreaking havoc throughout Europe. Former New York City cop Michael Finnegan and former Spanish assassin Catalin Fierro, the brains behind St. Nicholas Salvage and Wrecking, a covert bounty hunting operation based in Cyprus, may be the only ones who can stop the carnage. The partners have a reputation for tracking down the worst of the worst in international crime, all while staying firmly under the radar. But as they draw ever closer to the bombers, and as the terrorism sweeps up Catalin's own family, Finnegan and Fierro have to decide if they can continue to operate in the shadows. As the partners learn who they can and can't trust, they come face to face with shocking secrets at the highest echelons of the world's intelligence communities. Non-stop action and whip-smart dialogue power this compelling thriller to its final heart-stopping conclusion. Now let's learn about Dana Haynes. Novelist Dana Haynes has spent more than 20 years in Oregon newspaper newsrooms, split between weeklies and dailies. He has won awards as a reporter, columnist, and editor. A native of the Pacific Northwest, he also served as spokesman for the mayor of Portland, Oregon. Haynes' first thriller, Crashers, which we had an event for, super fun, was released in 2010. It won the Spotted Owl Award from Friends of Mystery as 2010's best mystery or thriller written by a Northwest writer. His first screenplay, an adaptation of Crashers, made it to the semifinals of the Nicholas Fellowship in 2005. Breaking Point, the sequel to Crashers, made its debut in 2011, followed by Ice Cold Kill, the breakout thriller for someone, in 2012, whose name I'm not going to give away, and Gunmetal Heart in 2014. St. Nicholas Salvage and Wrecking marked Haynes's debut with Blackstone Publishing in March 2019. Let's all welcome Dana Haynes.
Oh, that's awesome. Can you hear me here, Michael?
I can hear you.
All right, good. So we'll go ahead and do this. I want to start off by thanking Annie Blooms. It is such an honor to have a great independent bookstore in the city of Portland. We're lucky as heck to have them. They've been so loyal to us, fans of books and also as writers. They were before the pandemic. They have been since the pandemic. Really want to praise Annie Blooms. Huge, huge fan. Thank you, Michael. This is great. I also want to say that during this conversation, you're liable to hear at one point or another from my cat, Violet. She's going to inform all of you that she has not yet been fed. In this issue, she is an unreliable narrator. Okay. I want to thank Blackstone, my publisher. Oh my gosh, I've been with several publishers. I love these folks at Blackstone. They are just awesome. They are supportive. Their marketing people are great. I have a poster that we're going to see a bit more of in a little while. They're rock. They're wonderful. I want to also thank Devin Pratt, who has been my publicist for this thing. Devin's been doing a great job. And a quick story that I think is somewhat interesting is that when I decided I wanted to go into business with Devin and have this business partnership, I Googled her, as one does, and I found out that she graduated from West Lynn High School. Once upon a time, I was the editor of the West Lynn Tidings newspaper. And a dozen years ago, when I needed to get a new literary agent, I fired off 1,000 letters to New York City. And one of the New York City literary agents got back to me and she said, Dana Haynes, is there any chance you used to be the editor of the West Lynn Tidings? Because I lived in that town. It was Janet Reed. She became my literary agent. She is today, and she's sold many, many books for me. So apparently in literature, all roads lead through West Lynn. I did not know that, but apparently they do. Finally, I want to thank Katie King, my wife, who's right over here. Katie has just been tremendously supportive and wonderful about all of this. She's been supporting me in everything that I do. And she is, as everybody knows, also a writer. And she's, yeah, kind of got a big crush going on there. Never mind. Okay, that's good. Okay. The chat is off on your right. There's a button down below to get into the chat. The chat's good because Michael's going to be monitoring it. We're going to be doing giveaways. And in the giveaways, you're going to answer, have trivia questions. The answers will be chatted in. You'll be able to type in your answers. Also, this is a good opportunity to get to know each other, introduce yourselves. You might find out that you don't all know each other and you have some things in common, so you should chat amongst yourselves. Good, okay. That's where we are right there. I'm going to be signing some books in a little while. Now, if you've pre-bought your book through Annie Blooms, or if you're buying it in the process of tonight, I will have book plates I can sign, and we'll do it right over here, and I can sign them exactly as you want them to look. I will make them customized. If you plan on buying them through Annie Blooms later, no problem. I'm going to head down there to the store later. Michael and I will figure out a way to do it with social distancing, and I'll sign every darn book there is to be signed at another time. So that's that. So we'll be doing some signings in a while. A couple of things I'm supposed to do. I am a middle-class, middle-aged middle child, and it's really tough for me to do the ask. I despise doing the ask, but I think Devin will probably smack me upside the head if I don't ask you to buy my book. The reason for the season is I'm really hoping to get some sales of this book. So this is one of those things that introverts like me really hate doing, but I have to do that. Yes, please do. The other thing going on is if you want to get traction on books in this day and age, the great thing is reviews. Go to Goodreads, go to Amazon, go to whatever service you use to look for books. And if you'll buy the book and you like the book and you feel like giving me a review, it makes a huge difference. I didn't think it did. I used to scoff at that, and I was clearly wrong. And that explains why some of my sales have been anemic. So that's it. I want to say that. I was going to talk a little bit about the series, about the book, but Michael really did such a great job explaining it. I don't have to. Instead, I'm just going to jump right into my first passage. Now, I was going to stand here and read while looking down at my book like this, but it dawned on me, I own this book in manuscript form, and I can blow it up to 18 point. Isn't that great? Because at my age, my eyes don't work that well anymore. So I want to read a quick passage. The goal here is to tell you a bit about Michael and Catalin, Finnegan and Fierro, our protagonists. Some of you know them already, but who they are, how they interact, how they work. Also the coterie of friends they have, because they have some very, very shady friends. And this introduces the terrorist cell that will be primary bad guy of the story, which is the Kamsin Sayef, or the Sword of the Storm. I also want to introduce a little bit about Kyrenia, a town on the northern coast of Cyprus that I have fallen madly in love with. I love this town and did some research there. So you're going to learn a little bit about the setting. They let their friends know they might be back in business after a dry spell. It's always good to know who's available at the start of a gig, Finnegan thought, just in case. Their friends were an unusual assortment of ne'er-do-wells, as his grandmother would have said. They included a corrupt banker who was to money laundering what Yasha Heifetz was to the fiddle, a Scottish mercenary who could put together an army at a moment's notice, and a crew of subcontracting conmen and thieves known as the Black Hearts. Finnegan, son of a cop, grandson of a cop, and at his soul a cop through and through, wasn't all that comfortable with the friends they'd established. Fierro, a soldier at heart, believed that all jobs fell into one of two categories, win or lose, and whatever rules you had to bend to stay out of that second category was fine by her. If it sometimes made it uncomfortable feelings between the partners, well, no business model is perfect. As for the Kamsin Sayef, the great god Google provided the answers, as it tended to during the first hours of any investigation. After making a name for itself in the Paris bombings 3 years earlier, the Kamsin Sayef lay low for a while, but this year they'd come back with a vengeance, launching 3 strikes in 8 months. First at a bank in Geneva, taking out 2 of the bank's mid-level officials and 6 others in an adjacent office. Next, in May, they hit a cafe in the lake town of Annecy, France. Again, they showed no mercy for family, killing an engineer and his wife and some bystanders. Then the terrorists hit Barcelona, killing 3 operatives of the American military contractor Sooner, Sly, and Rydell, and thus hamstringing any investigation by either the Spanish or American spy agencies. A messenger delivered a package to their Karanian office over the Turkish restaurant that afternoon. Finnegan opened the package to find a flash drive, but no note, no letter, no instructions. He fit the drive into an extra laptop they stored in the closet in case the drive was infected, and found the entire case file of the Kamsin Sayef, courtesy of the Spanish Centro Nacional de Inteligencia. As the day wore on, Finnegan studied everything he could understand on the flash drive and found on the internet about the terrorist cell and the bombings. While Fierro went running, Finnegan remained cooped up and enjoyed it. He would read for an hour, then go clean something, make their beds or fold the laundry or scour out the coffee maker. That was his version of research Tai Chi: read, putter, ponder, repeat. He watched tapes of the Kamsin Sayef frontman, the nameless cleric. After each bombing, the man appeared in a video at Al Jazeera. He had Fierro watch the YouTube videos too. She took notes and translated the speeches into English, and she came to the same conclusion he did. There's a professionalism about him, not a passion, she said. He's almost addressing voters instead of true believers. He insults non-believers in the West and Israel and capitalism, but he doesn't rant, and he doesn't equivocate. The bombings are a good thing. The deaths have political value. Finnegan said, he's a fucking nutbar. My mom is on this call. Mom, I'm going to be swearing a lot. Where was I? Fierro said, still. Finnegan hold himself up for the next few days. Fierro exercised and read. She helped translate the flash drive when necessary. Their 2 employees, pilot Lachlan Sumner and office manager Bridget Sumner, were on vacation in New Zealand. The quiet of the office drove Fierro a little crazy, and she spent time learning to windsail off the island's eastern coast. That evening, over Chinese takeaway, Finnegan waved his chopsticks in the air and said, start at the very beginning. It's a very good place to start. Fierro speared a shrimp from one of the boxes. Who said that? He said, Maria. Maria who? Never mind. I want you to go to Geneva. I want to go to Geneva. I want to walk through the first new crime scene. She said, not Paris? They're 3 years apart between that first bombing and the other 3. I'd like to take the current cluster as a separate case. She nodded. He was the investigator. What do you expect to find in Geneva? He drank some Belmonte beer. Dunno. Sometimes you find things by walking the scene and sometimes you don't. You can't tell till you try. Then we should go. He said, not we, me. You don't think I'd be helpful walking the crime scene? I think you'd get bored and find somebody to punch. She said, Michael, you think my every interaction ends with me punching somebody? Odds makers are standing by. He dug out a spoonful of the spicy salt and pepper noodles. But you've got another job. What's that? What do we know about the Swiss banking industry? Nothing. Fierro chewed on a mushroom. For that, we usually... Wait. He grinned. Yep. No. Absolutely. Michael, she stamped one foot. I can't. He's in love with me. Half the people I know are in love with you. But ways and means? He said, Ways and Means is the most crooked banker we have ever met, but he knows everything there is to know about banking. Probably knew the banker got killed. Plus, you know, there's the whole he's in love with you thing. I won't do it, she announced. Okay, I'll go. They ate for a while. Fierro scowled and munched through her dinner. Really? Sure. I'll go to Verona. I'll talk to Ways and Means. You go to Geneva and walk the crime scene, absorb information, conduct interviews, analyze data, detect. Oh, please. She rolled her eyes. I tried to do that. I'll end up punching somebody. So that's the first sequence. Gives you a sense of. I had a round of applause. It was the most popular scene in this entire household. Just to give you a sense of who they are and who they and whom where they come from and some of the background here. And I also like to introduce Cyprus to people whenever I can, because I love Cyprus. And it's time for our first giveaway. I'm going to give away some stuff. Now, here's what I'm giving away. My 4 books from the St. Martin's Press Minotaur line. This is my series before this series. It is Crashers, Breaking Point, Ice Cold Kill, Gunmetal Heart, and I'm going to be giving these away to a person who can answer the trivia question. And the trivia question, Michael, by the way, will jump in a second to tell me, because I can't really read the chat very well. It's a little small for me. So let me know if there's a winner. And the question is, what fictional military leader was stationed in Cyprus? What fictional military leader was stationed in Cyprus? The first person wins. And Zane Sparling is swing and a miss. Ed McNamara is much closer. I'm tempted to give this to Zane because Zane's in the ballpark. But we're going to give this a minute. It's the famed military leader who was stationed in Cyprus. And Katie King, for the record, told me, dude, nobody's going to get this.
Yeah, she did.
And in point of fact, it now appears, Othello! Joseph Gallivan got it right.
All right. Way to go, Joseph.
Joseph Gallivan is my resident Englishman on my staff. He got it right first. Yes, Othello was sent to Cyprus by the Duke of Venice because they were worried about the Turks. As you can see, the more things change, the more they stay the same. The Turks now occupy 1/3 of the island today. And then after that, he went to assign, Othello went to Venice, and that assignment went, spoiler alert, poorly. Okay, so yes. My man gets 4 books, and that is quite hilarious. I just wanted to focus for just 1/4 second on Cyprus. I got to travel there to do the research for this books. And if you are as geographically challenged as I am, and I'm going to try and do this from your perspective, not mine. It's in the Eastern Mediterranean, and Turkey is due north. Syria and Israel are to the east. Egypt is due south. And so it's in the middle of all these hot spots, and there's a lot of English expats there because there's 2 English bases. There are a lot of Russian expats there. The banks are incredibly corrupt there, and so the Russian oligarchs tend to hide their money on Cyprus, which is perfect for my organization of 2 people who essentially run a bounty hunting operation. They can hide their profits in corrupt banks. Cyprus was a phenomenal research opportunity for me, and I am so grateful for having gone.
Brian Thornton wants to know, did you see Famagusta?
Yes, I did. I did get to Famagusta, and it's everything you've heard. The mysterious hidden village is the dead village is really amazing. Okay, I'm going to talk a little bit about influences. And the reason I'm going to talk about influences is because people always ask, that's one of the questions I always get asked. And in a Zoom call, I have to predict what questions are going to get asked. But also, I'm planning on doing a newsletter for all of you, all the participants. We'll be doing a newsletter that I'm going to ship out later with the help of Michael. And there will be links to some of these and to more information on these people. So just wanted you to know that. Some of my influences as a writer, I got to say, and he passed away last year, was, of course, John le Carré, the most amazing writer. He was the great Cold War spy novelist, the best ever. And then when the Cold War ended, we all wondered who would be the next post-Cold War John le Carré. And the answer was John le Carré was. Agent Running in the Field, he wrote last year. He wrote his first mystery I ever read, he wrote in 1962, an amazing prolific career. Another guy who was influential, and I didn't know it at the time, was Michael Crichton. Yes, I have an old crappy paperback version of The Andromeda Strain. And I love this book. I love the movie, but I never realized it was influential until later, after I wrote Crashers, and then went back and reread The Andromeda Strain. And I realized they're both about a whole group of very smart PhDs who work for the government to get together to solve a techno mystery. So I had borrowed that thesis from Crichton and hadn't realized it until I went back later and realized it. So he was very influential in me. Philip MacDonald, he wrote The List of Adrian Messenger and about 40 other murder mysteries. Englishman, he wrote from the 20s to the 60s, also wrote screenplays. Some of his stuff ranges from mediocre to pretty darn good, but The List of Adrian Messenger is on my list of the greatest mysteries ever written. And it's because of how he flows the clues. I go back and reread it every 10 years just to remind myself how one lays in clues brilliantly and deftly. And when you get to the primary clue in that one, you smack your forehead and say, that's what's going on. It's brilliant. I love that guy. Another is Robert Ludlum. And when I was 18, 19, 20, 21, I read everything from Ludlum. And the reason I love those spy thrillers, The Bourne Identity, all that stuff, because what I remember about it was the settings. I loved the settings. I loved going to Europe and hearing the streets in Germany and the squares in Italy and the trains running through the middle of town. And I just thought that stuff was so elegant and lovely. And so now I find myself writing that kind of book exactly. We're in Europe. We're seeing all those names, seeing all the streets and the squares. And last year I discovered my old friend Keith Kayla, who was my editor in my Minotaur days. He used to edit Ludlum. So now I find that I have 1 degree of separation from one of my childhood idols, which I think is really, really, really cool. And finally, I'd be amiss if I didn't mention this. I started reading comic books when I was 12, and I read comic books today. I still collect them, and I love being a comic book guy. And when I was 12, it was a guy named Roy Thomas. Everything he wrote was brilliant. By the time I was 16, it was a guy named Chris Claremont. And what I learned about how to tell a rollicking story, a lot of that I got from Marvel Comics and DC Comics. I owe a debt of gratitude to one of the truly American art forms, the comic book. What taught me a lot about how to craft a good story. Quickly, who am I reading now? How am I doing for time? I'm doing all right. Lee Child's Reacher series is wonderful. He has just retired. The series will be carried on by someone else. But the Reacher books were awfully good. Robert Cray has been writing the Elvis Cole and Joe Pike mysteries since, good Lord, the early 90s. I mean, that thing's had sting. He built those to last. They're terrific, and he keeps reinvigorating them. Meg Gardner has done a number of good series, but her current one, called the Unsub series, is, I think, I personally believe it's her best. Caitlin Hendricks is the hero in that one. And it's nice to know that she's had this wonderful career of really good series, and her current one is the best yet. I mean, she's building on a career, so I'm awesome. I'm new to the table for Nick Petrie. He writes the Peter Ash thrillers. I read the first one last year and fell in love with it. It was great. Nick Petrie, very, very good. And finally, Greg Hurwitz. He writes the Orphan X mysteries. I think they are money in the bank. I think they're dynamite. Excellent. That's probably the best action adventure thriller series on the market today, Greg Hurwitz. And again, I'm going to be sharing all these in a newsletter with whomever wants. One last pick, and this is an influence, just a funny story. Katie and I got to go to France several years ago when we were in Paris, and I went to the Shakespeare and Company, the tremendous English language bookstore there. And I found a novella, mystery thriller, and it's really good. It's by an Englishman named Luke Jennings. And I thought it was good, and I tweeted out it was good. And I sent him a note, say how much I enjoyed it. He sent me a note back thanking me. Well, that novella became Killing Eve, which was this incredibly popular cable show. So I had been a fan of Villanelle and Eve long before they were on television. And I'm a little bit proud that I picked that one. So that's it. And again, I'm going to be sharing all these in a newsletter with everybody later. I'm going to do a second passage, and then we're going to take some questions from the audience, I think, is the next plan after that. So let me switch tactics here. Got another passage I wanted to read, and a couple of goals here. This is set in Paris. I had mentioned that there was a private military contractor, Sooner, Sly, and Rydell, in the first passage. They're, like I say, a private military, and they've been hampering the CIA and the Spanish CNI in the investigation, and they've been really a pain in the ass. Finnegan and Fierro have just decked 4 of their guys out in front of this bar. The Sooner, Sly, and Rydell team also includes a Belarusian assassin whom we meet for the first time. I can tell you that he has tangled with Fiyero before in her past, and who he holds a real grudge. And he'll be referred to as the Very Pale Man. The partners have come to this dodgy tavern in a crappy part of Paris. Katie and I have been to that very crappy part of Paris to do this research. It's filled with criminals on the inside of the bar. They only have to find a guy named Clement Lacombe, whom they think can lead them to the bomber. And so here we go. Finnegan frisked the uninjured guy and came up with a gun and a high-tech Bluetooth comms unit clipped to his belt. Fiyero took the guns and the comm units of the three on her side of the street. Finnegan squatted and took Clement Lacombe's switchblade too. The fence sat on the sidewalk, his back against a grimy wall, both hands holding his thigh. He looked angry, but his anger was overlaid by confusion. Who the fuck are you? The good guys, Finnegan nodded to the others. They're the bad guys. You're better off with us, friend. He helped the Frenchman up to his feet and even rescued the man's pork pie hat. He turned back, grinning, and saw a newcomer appear across the street to Fiyero's left. He shouted out the partner's code word for any opponent. Bravo! Fiyero reacted quickly, catching a glimmer of movement in her peripheral vision and skipping back 3 steps out of the new guy's reach. The man appeared to be very pale, but otherwise was remarkably unremarkable. Average in height, weight, hair color, clothing. He might have been 40 or 10 years older or 10 years younger. He looked like he hadn't grown up poor and hadn't grown up rich, but you couldn't tell by looking why you even thought that. He looked relaxed and completely at ease on a darkened street with 2 armed strangers and 4 men littering the sidewalks. Fiyero aimed her borrowed revolver at him. The newcomer cut the distance between them in the blink of an eye, grabbed her wrist and twisted. The gun spiraled away. He stabbed at her shoulder, fingers stiffening to a sword point. Fiyero dodged the blow and used his mass as a counterweight, pivoting a swivel kick that came in high, aiming at his right ear. The very pale man ducked back. The kick missed. He kicked at her brace leg and Fiyero shuffled back. The man kicked her in the gut. Fiyero landed on her ass. Across the street, guy number 2 started grinning, so Finnegan kneed him in the balls, then drew the guy's revolver. He tried to get Bravo's attention. Hey! Fiyero turned her fall into a backward somersault, rolling to her feet, crouched and ready, a dozen feet between her and the Bravo. The very pale man cut the distance between them. They pivoted clockwise, and now Fiyero was far too close to Finnegan's line of fire. The very pale man kept his eyes on Fiyero, but raised his voice for Finnegan across the street. Do you think you can hit me with that gun? He spoke English with a thick Eastern European accent. Finnegan didn't like how fast this guy was. He turned the gun from the brawl across the street to guy number 2 at his left. Pretty sure I can hit this asshole. You think I care? The pale man grinned. He and Fiyero danced in a circle around each other. Fiyero fainted and the guy backpedaled. 2 of the Sooner, Sly, and Rydell goons were climbing to their feet. The tide was turning. Fiyero moved. She came at the man like a summer storm on the plains, fast, violent, and without warning. She opted for a combination low kick, high kick, knuckle blow to the sternum. The man faded back. The blows all missed. He fired a bullet-fast rabbit punch to her chest, dead center. Fiyero stumbled back and avoided falling over, but barely. The man kept dancing, kept Fiyero between himself and Finnegan's gun. He called out mockingly, "You want to shoot, American? Americans always want to shoot." Finnegan said, "A little, yeah," and turned and fired 1 shot into the window of the Archer and Boar. It hit in the far upper corner, the bullet likely traveling into the ceiling of the darkened back room. The entire window shattered, turning granular in a fraction of a blink. Finnegan let the gun spin in his hand, gave it to Lacombe, handle first. The fence paused and took it. "Remember," Finnegan said, "we came at you empty-handed. These shit sticks came at you with guns." 6 rough-hewn men stormed out of the tavern. Each was armed with everything ranging from pool cues to knives. Lacombe looked at the gun in his hand, looked at Finnegan, at the injured soldiers now rising, at the duel across the street. A human rhino with a full sleeve tattoo and a cricket bat stormed up and grabbed Finnegan by the arm. "Not him," Lacombe said. "Them." My fan base. So that gives you a sense. I wanted to do that scene because in the first book, Fiyero beats the crap out of everybody she comes near. She's by far the best fighter. And so I thought it would be really fun to put her in a situation where she was facing her equal. And that was sort of a joy to do. I thought at this point we could stop and we could take questions from the audience, and then I can blather some more after that. But do we, and I wondered if, Michael, you may be able to see them better than my aging eyes and the distance.
Happy to help out. Yeah, we had a couple from earlier that I jotted down because I didn't want to see them get lost. Ryan Deckert, wanted to know which Oregonian was recently the U.S. ambassador of Cyprus.
I don't know. An Oregonian was the ambassador to Cyprus. I got to tell you honestly, I do not know the answer to this question. Hopefully he'll tell us.
That seems reasonable. But maybe he will give us that answer at some point. And there was another question.
Molly Bordenaro.
You looked up, who is it?
Molly Bordenaro.
Oh, okay.
Thanks, man. I didn't know that one.
Sally Padro wanted to know, will you be bringing Dennis back from Crashers? He was my favorite.
Yes.
The answer would be no. And because unfortunately, the way it works, and a serious answer is no, but the really, really serious answer is I cannot take any character from St. Martin's Press books and put them in a Blackstone publishing book. I can't have like a Buffy verse where everybody in the Buffy world kind of vaguely knew each other and lived in the same world. The publishing world won't do that. If I were ever, God willing, to get back at Minotaur and St. Martin's, I could reintroduce a Dana verse there and we could then see Dennis. But as long as I'm with another publisher, alas, no, they don't allow that. So.
Or if Disney buys all the publishing houses or something, and then you can have the X-Men and all your old characters in there too.
A very good threat. That's, yeah, okay.
Let's see, what else do we have here? Is this the end, or will the series continue? Steve N wants to know.
I can tell you right now that I'm 180 pages into the next one. I'm having a great deal of fun. The first one took place in the former Yugoslavia and France. The one I'm selling right now, that Michael's helping me sell right now, takes place in Cyprus, of course, and in Spain, and also in a fictional city in North Africa. The one after that, we're going to have some of it take place for the very first time ever in the United States. Not much of it, but a bit of it. And much of the rest of it takes place in Italy, specifically in Venice, a city that Katie and I have visited often and truly love. And I got to tell you, the reason there's a fictional city in this one is because I needed a city that was under siege in a war, like Aleppo was about 18 months ago. And I like to go and do research in the places I write about. And I couldn't go to Aleppo to do research because I'm stupid, but not that stupid.
Here's a question that both of us can answer from Chuck Riley. Can I buy Sirocco tonight and get it signed?
The answer would be yes, because Annie Bloom's is awesome, and we can get you a signed copy for certain and for sure, Senator. Thank you very much.
Let's see. Want to make sure I didn't miss anything. Michael Morrow, hey, I just bought the last 2, so I have all 6. Will it be Turkey? I'm not sure.
I have not myself visited Turkey. I've been awfully close to it, but I've not been there yet. I would love to go to Greece, and I would love to go to Turkey and do some research for a future book. And the other place I really, really, really want to go, and I'm going to try, I haven't come up with a plot yet, but I want to go to Malta. I think Malta would be freaking fantastic. So that's high on my list.
Jim Redden wants to know, do you consider yourself writing in a genre?
Yes, very much a genre writer. We joke a little bit when we go to the conventions that, we're not literature writers. We don't write literature, that we are definitely a genre. I write, well, I'll be honest with you, these are currently considered thrillers, but I was a mystery writer before that, and my pivot foot is still in the mystery realm. So these are mystery thrillers. And I am a big genre reader. I love genre fiction, and a lot of what I read is a lot of the kind of stuff I would write. So yeah, I'm very much a genre writer and very proud of that.
All right. Heather Kometz wants, my father has a special request that you bring back a plane into your next book. What do you think?
Finnegan and Fierro own a de Havilland Otter, and they have a pilot, and he flies them around. In the first book, it is set with pontoons, so they're landing on a bunch of lakes. In the next book, it's set up for runway landings, but they own a de Havilland Otter, and I just thought an otter was such a workhorse of a plane that I thought it'd be awfully fun to make that their home away from home. And it also appears pretty prominently in the third book as well. So.
Win Wakila wants to know, what's your next idea for a strange character? What qualifies as a strange character, I guess?
Well, Okay, I'll tell you. I'm gonna give away a little something, and it's not a huge giveaway because it's actually on the back information on the cover of this book. Is the thing about Finnegan and Fierro is that they've been hiding their career from their parents. Michael's dad and his grandfather and his uncles and his little sister are all cops. And now he's got a job where he technically kidnaps people and takes them to the International Criminal Court. Fierro grew up rich in a very liberal family. Her father is a cousin of the King of Spain, and he's on the board of directors of about 9 different green organizations. Her mom was an academic, by the way, is Algerian. She's Spanish Algerian. She's an academic and a journalist, and they were quite rich. And Fierro grew up to be an assassin. So they have kept their careers away from their family. In book 2, the one with the bomber, it gets pretty darn close to Catalan's family. The Fierro Dahar family gets involved pretty closely to this thing. And now she has to make a decision. How long can I stay in the shadows if I really want to stop these people? In the 3rd book, I want to do much the same thing. I would like very much for Michael's backstory and his family to come to the fore, because part of what's going on is how our 2 characters have changed and how they grow closer and closer and more like each other. They came from very different worlds and very different mindsets, and how they blend in their families who won't appreciate what it is that they do. So I think that the introduction of people from Michael's background and his dad's background, that'll be the strange character in book 3.
The coming together thing ties into Zane's question, which is still not tempted to link the 2 main characters romantically?
Yeah, thank you. That's a really good question. It was essential in what I did when I was first coming up with the idea. I had never read a thriller that had 2 primary protagonists, a man and a woman, who were co-equals and not love interests. I had never seen that. This is not a story of somebody and a sidekick. These are 2 people of complete equal stature, and they're not lovers. They are, as time goes by and the books go on, they treat each other a bit more like siblings than anything else. They're the best of friends. If you need to deduce something or con your way out of something, Michael's hell on wheels for that. If you need to kick ass, that's Catalan's arena. So they're good at what they do. And in any one scene, one might be more dominant than the other as required, but they are not lovers, nor will they be. And I had just never seen that. Complete co-equals, men and women, best friends. That was the very first dynamic before I came up with any of the plot that I wanted to establish. I have no intention of getting rid of that. I really, really love that.
Sally wants to know, will Sally Blue take on a larger role due to her online popularity in your reviews? Someplace I won't mention.
There's reference in the first passage I read to a group of thieves and con men who call themselves the Black Hearts. It's named for a bar in London that they call their headquarters. And Sally Blue is the leader of this group. And she and the Hearts from time to time will help Finnegan and Fierro. And the rule is this: they will come in and they will help any way they can because they're very good con people and very good thieves. And they'll then free to steal anything that they can get their hands on and can move. But if violence ensues, they're gone. As Sally says in one of the books, it's run now, ask questions never. They don't do violence, but if you need surveillance or if you need to get into a building or if you need to crack a computer, they're there for you. It's little known because I don't actually use the words, but Sally and her 2 primary compatriots starred in a short story that appeared at the World Mystery Convention Anthology of Short Stories 2019. Is the World Mystery Convention travels every year. That year it was in Dallas, and there's a short story in that series, and Sally and her compatriots are the primary protagonists of that. And you learn a little bit about their history in that one. They appear again in the 2nd book, the one we're schlepping here today, and Sally appears quite prominently in the 3rd book. And she goes from being a B story character to an A story character in the 3rd book. And I love the Hearts, and I love Sally. And if I could come up with a standalone story, a book, a novel for them, I would do it in a heartbeat.
Wynn also wants to know, how about writing Katie into a book?
Now, I couldn't write Katie into a book because any simulacrum that I did of Katie would be insufficient to capture her fabulosity. I am good. I'm not that good. No, a faux Katie would simply be a faux Katie. And after all, I have the actual Katie, who is, and I'm looking for the appropriate term here, hot. Okay.
Judy King noted that Katie's wardrobe is already in the books.
Yes, this is true. I like clothing a great deal. I've had a number of people say, why do you describe clothing so much? And the answer is I learn a lot about people by what they wear. And so, I borrow Katie's wardrobe and my own wardrobe pretty extensively and for a lot of different characters.
Mary Powell wants to know, will your characters visit Myanmar?
Myanmar is a city in Thailand. I've never been there, but I would certainly consider it. It's the International Criminal Court that they steal people for. And there's no reason in the world they couldn't go to Asia or to South America or Australia. They could go anywhere in the world. Now, my own travels and my research have been in Europe and Cyprus and very, very briefly in Tel Aviv with my friend Tim. There's no reason in the world why I can't spread them out and go to other places. And as time goes by, I wouldn't mind doing that. I really would like to go to places like Turkey or Greece or really Malta, which is an island between Italy and Africa, or a set of islands, excuse me, and do some research there. So that might be, after I get book 3 done, that might be where I head next. But yeah, I would consider taking them nearly anywhere.
Cool. Emily Ochipinti wants to know, Ruby would like to know, when is the children's version of the series coming out?
Ruby is one of my biggest fans. Ruby has been with me from the beginning. She's a great, and she critiques most of the books. She reads everything. And I have to tell you, Ruby, who's barely 2 years old, if that, that I swear so much in my books, I don't think you're going to be able to read these books until after you've declared a major.
All right, let's see. Kiki Dembro says, this is a question from Michael, another Michael. I assume that at some point you're going to be invited to do a writer in residence at one of our universities. If so, time to bring back Conrad Haynes? What's the reference?
I will say, speaking of writers in residency, that Portland Community College now is going to have in the very near future a writer in residency program because they were given an estate from a late artist here in town, which is really cool. Community colleges are never have been quite that cool, so I'm very excited. And here's my problem, Michael and Kiki. Yes, Katie has done some. These are books from the early days, back in the day, right? And not for nothing, by the way, but there's a character in these books named Kiki Duval, and it was stolen from Michael Dembro's wife, Kiki, that name. I love my day job. I love working in the Portland Tribune. I'm the managing editor. I have this tremendous staff. They are, I think, the very best in all of Oregon, if not the Northwest. And we're doing incredibly good work, and I love my day job, and I have no intention at any time in the future of taking a sabbatical away from that to spend time doing fiction writing, just like I have no intention of ever giving up fiction writing. I have too much fun in my day job, and I have too much fun in my night job, and as long as they'll both have me, my intention is to keep juggling these balls because this is just a kick in the butt.
Question from Brian Blair, and I like your process, so I'm glad he's asking about it. Your books always have such a rhythm, especially towards the climax and play out so visually. Do you have certain techniques that help you achieve this?
A couple of them, yes. One is that I'm a theater guy. I was an actor before I was a journalist, and so I choreograph action sequences. Katie and I have literally walked through places like Milan and said, okay, the protagonists enter from this side, the antagonists, this is what they see, this is what they hear, this is what they smell. And I choreograph my action sequences. Another thing I do, and I often haven't shared this with people, I'm going to duck out of frame for a second, is some of you know this, but not everybody. I write longhand in steno pads with a pencil for all of the first drafts of my books. And the reason I do that is it slows my brain down and it makes me take my time with every sentence and every paragraph, and it doesn't rush me through. And because of that, I can write the action sequences at a granular level. I can really focus on which leg the person's standing on and where the sun is. And if I just tried typing them in like that, my brain goes too fast and I put in crap information. But by writing longhand, it slows me down and makes me distill the information in action sequences in a way that I think really helps a great deal for me. So that's my primary secret there. The other one for me is that I never know the exact ending of books. I always think of books in 3 acts, Act 1, Act 2, Act 3. And I know the plot point that gets us out of Act 1. I know the plot point that gets us out of Act 2, but I rarely know how the book ends. And what I do is I start doing my research and I travel around and I think, you know what? That would be a cool ending. Let's do that. And I was traveling with Katie and her dad, Tim, and her aunt when I came up with where the ending for this book, Sirocco, is going to be. And I was looking around at this castle in Europe and I thought, boom, this is it. This is the scene. But I didn't know that going in. I waited until I found it and it fit and it felt right. It felt organic. And then I went back in my second and subsequent drafts and built what I needed to make that place happen. So because I don't know and I don't presuppose the endings of my books, it allows me to be a bit more organic, I think.
Does that make it more fun for you too, to not know where you're going necessarily and to discover that and kind of motivate you?
Yep. This sounds stupid, but I am my own first reader. I write for me. I write books that entertain me. That's my goal. And one of the things I love doing is waking up in the morning and thinking, man, I put my protagonist in a bad situation yesterday. I can't wait to find out what happens next. Let's go get out there. And I get the coffee going and I get the kitty fed. And then I start writing because I just can't wait to find out what's going to happen next. And so, yeah, I have a lot of fun writing. Now, I will tell you that my very first job as an adult was as a janitor at a Datsun dealership. So that helps calibrate because the worst day I ever had writing was much better than my best day as a janitor. So that calibration helps, I think.
Michael Morrow. So endings start with a place versus action?
Sometimes, yeah. I think I know kind of where I need my protagonists to be as far as their lives, but not where physically. And so I quite often wait until I've got a venue that is worthy of them. I remember in one of the Daria books, I assumed it was going to end in Milan, I think. And then I visited Belgrade, the capital of Serbia, and I saw that the parliament of the Serbian parliament, and catty corner from it was a building that had been blown up by 4 JDAM missiles. And it was still sitting there and had been blown up 20 years earlier. And I thought, a bombed out building across from the parliament? Oh, hell yeah, that's where I'm ending that book. And that was worthy of Daria's story. So quite often I kind of vaguely know emotionally where I want my folks to be. And then I will find some place like I did in Sirocco and think, yeah, okay, that's going to lend itself to a lovely venue. And again, it's my theater background. That set design, that backdrop, that'll be lovely for this. So that is how I work, yeah.
Let's see. Wynn wants to know, Jeff Epstein character in future book?
Jeff Epstein? I don't know who that is.
Well, then we'll move on to Ryan Deckert's. Can you talk about the art of dropping a hint/clue?
Yeah, I can. It's one thing is not to worry about it too awfully much in the first draft. And when I used to teach writing, I used to tell people a first draft should look crappy. And if it doesn't, you're doing it wrong. We call them first drafts for a reason. And so if I establish, I'm way into my first draft and decide, oh my God, I'm going to end this book at this castle in the mountains in Spain, in Eastern Spain, I can say, oh yeah, that's going to be great. Now in second drafts, I can go in and start putting in stuff that I need to lead us there. I can introduce that venue early. You want to introduce all your primary venues in Act 1, right? Your character, your plot, your settings, establish all that in Act 1. And so I know I'm going to get them there eventually. So I go back and start plotting how to get them there. And I know I need a character who's from that place. So I inserted this dude who didn't exist in the first draft and I plumbed through. And then I start saying, okay, there's a thing that happens that's really, really vital, and we find out about it. And Michael, who's our detective, figures it out here on page 300. Wouldn't it be nice for me to lay that in somewhere else? I'm not going to worry about it in my first draft, but I know that in the second draft, I'm going to go back and lay it in later. Don't worry about it now. I'll get to it. And so when the book is done and I've written the all important words, the end, then I start layering in clues where I think they fit. Oh, it'd be really nice to introduce that or tease to that. There's a, and this isn't giving anything away, there's a hidden bad guy in the new book, Sirocco. And I thought it would be really nice for us to run into that character en passant 2 or 3 times before we realize it's really a character we need to have been paying attention to. So I was able to then to go back and layer that stuff in. So I don't do any of that in the first draft. I'm going to get to that later. Once I really figure out all of the essential elements and I figure out what is the plot points of Act 3, then I go and lay in my clues after that, where I think they're efficient.
Cool. Wynn is reminding us that Jeffrey Epstein was the guy who died in jail and was found guilty of human trafficking.
No, yeah, it's disgusting. I think I will avoid thinking of that guy, and I will certainly avoid writing about the guy. I did actually have to write about child traffickers in the first book. And I had one writer whom I really, really respect, Jamie Frevoletti, who said, I don't think I want to give you a blurb because you're writing about child traffickers and I don't like that topic. Mm-hmm. And I wrote back to her and said, I respect that so much. Absolutely a good call on your part. I thank you for that. Although I will point out that the young people end up more or less saving themselves before our protagonists even get to saving them in St. Nicholas Salvage and Wrecking. But there are certain things I don't particularly want to write about too often. And that's one of them. And so, no, I would not write about that dude. And
I think that's all the questions we have at the moment. And did you want to see if anyone's going to get a live signing here?
Well, let's do that. Let's go ahead and Ms. King is taking care of a very important element of this night. We are now going to move over to our other venue, moving around like this. And we'll be able then to sign books for everybody who wants me to sign them live. So here's the deal. Let me repeat the situation as on the ground. If you are buying a book, what do we have here? Oh, Ms. King.
Nice.
Moe Chandon. I love it. So if you need to, if you're going to buy a book from Annie's tonight, or if you've pre-ordered a book, I will be very pleased to sign one of these very cool book plates. And the book plates, then we will take them to Annie Bloom's and they'll be able to install them in the book. If you're simply buying one from Annie Bloom's, you haven't done it yet, you're going to do it whenever, I can just go down to Annie Bloom's and sign them. The difference is if we're doing it while I'm live, I can individualize them. And the first 5 went to Linda Blanchette. Here's the 6th one to Linda Blanchette. Linda ordered 6 of my novels, which means she is now an honorary member of the Haynes household. I can see my younger brother Tyler's on this call, and Tyler's thinking, that's a good thing? It's a mixed blessing, Linda. That is for Linda. I don't know how many people want to stay on this call while I do this, so let me take care of some of my sayonaras. Some people might want to drop off. A couple of quick things. Thank you, Annie Bloom's. Oh my God, we love Annie Bloom's. Yay. Second, if you could buy my book, and if you like the book after you bought it and you want to review it, please do so. I want to thank Janet, my literary agent, and Devin, my publicist. And I want to say this has been grand fun. I'm loving what I'm doing. I'm going to stay on the line. Michael and I are going to sign some books. If we run out of books to sign, I have a couple other anecdotes I was going to tell. Anybody who feels like maybe it's time for them to drop off, you should feel free to do so. But Michael, do we have anybody who is lined up and who needs books signed?
I'm not seeing anyone who's, let's see, wait. Wynn says, yes, please. I bought mine already, but would like it signed.
Excellent. Here we go.
Oh yeah, we've got another one coming up too.
All right.
Got it.
Cool.
Who else?
Got that one? Okay, Brian Thornton. I pre-ordered one today. If you could just make it out to Brian and sign it, that would be terrific.
To Brian, my best friend.
Mr. Thornton, signed. Woohoo! And I don't know if you want to post it on.
Jane, are you ready for the next one? Jane Ayers. Jane and Eric pre-ordered from Annie's and definitely want it signed.
Yay. And I know that Jane and Eric in their lives do lots and lots and lots and lots and lots and lots of Zoom calls. So you get extra points for being on this one. Most of us are zoomed out.
Yeah. The next one is Mike Burton. Bought mine
Hey.
online. Please sign.
How you doing, sir? Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Former lawmaker, former Metro exec. It's so good to hear from you.
Thank you, Mike. Thank you to everyone who's buying them. That's fantastic.
Excellent. Thank you, sir.
Chuck Riley, I bought one tonight.
Yay.
Thank you, Senator. You guys are very, very busy right now. So for a member of the legislature to take time out for this, your time is a precious commodity. And so, my gosh, I'm so grateful.
And make it out to Katie too.
Oh, that's right. Yes.
Stacy stuff.
Katie wears an IE.
Yeah, I know.
Okay.
Thank you, guys. Really, really, really appreciate it.
And someone asked, am I in the list? And I don't have the list in front of me, but if you've purchased a book already, again, Dana is going to go in and sign those, and we will have the list at the store of everybody who's bought them, including if you've left a comment saying how you would like the book signed. So
And
don't
Mike,
worry about it if you aren't, asking it for it live here tonight. We'll accommodate you.
and Michael, somebody has asked, how do you get the book? So maybe this would be a good opportunity to put that link back up again.
I'll throw it in there again. Yeah, here you go. Follow this link right here. This is the event
Yay.
link, and the books are for sale on there.
For those of you who weren't in at the very beginning, I want to say once again what it means to have an independent bookstore like Annie Bloom's in our community. It is a mitzvah. It is a gift for the community. And I was trying to buy one book from an independent bookstore every week during the pandemic. And one time I went into the Annie Bloom's site and they had a sign up that said, "We're terribly sorry. We're so inundated. It'll take us a week to get this book to you." And my heart bloomed because in the middle of the pandemic, the loyal audience of Annie Bloom's was just besieging them with orders, which was I love the reading community in Portland, Oregon. I love the book fans in Portland, and we all love Annie Bloom's.
Thank you. Yeah, it was really amazing, the outpouring of support this last year. Really appreciate it. Let's see. Joseph says you already have your instructions. Me too. Sonny ordered mine already from Annie Bloom's. Would like it personalized.
Dr. Sonny.
Thank you, Doctor. Appreciate it.
Suzanne Hoffman says, I'm off to buy my book right now. That may or may not be a vote for requesting a signature. I'll leave it to your interpretation.
Okay.
And Sally Padro, sign one for the Padro family.
Of course.
Remind me, what's the plural for Padro? I think it's Padri. Oh, good. Oh my God. Thank you all very much. Oh my God, this is fun.
And McNamara already says, sign it any old way. Have to go now. Great reading and talk.
Oh my gosh.
Yay.
Yes, Tom Elwood was the person who was wanting to know the easiest way. You can also just call the bookstore, not right now because we're closed, 6 p.m. each night. But yeah, using that link to the website is probably the best way. Ian Sparling left and wants to come back. Come back, Zane. Jim Redden says, ordered mine tonight. You can sign my expense form. Your accountant or something, or CPA. Lou Frederick says, ordering mine right now. Looking forward to it.
Oh my God. I have to make sure we don't have too many senators here that we have to declare a caucus.
Wow.
Thank you, sir. I know that you had actually a constituent work tonight too, that you came from. So, so much. I appreciate our lawmakers.
Representative Reynolds wanted to come, but she got her second COVID vaccine tonight.
And Ritu Sani also has gotten his COVID vaccines. And here's to our frontline workers and all that they've done to get us through these times. Thank you. Thank you, guys. Thank you so much.
Yeah. let's see, when, and anyone who's curious about picking up their book, we'll send you instructions when it is signed and ready to be picked up, or we're going to be delivering it or mailing it or whatever you have chosen for your method. So yeah, we'll let you know. Tyler Haynes, I ordered one earlier today. Keep it clean. Your nephews will read it.
That's my younger brother, and he knows that I'm incapable of writing without swearing. It's just, I can't do it.
It's writer's Tourette.
Yeah, it's the writer's Tourette's. It's newsroom Tourette's. Yeah.
Brian Blair, buying ours now and having it shipped down here to Texas. Could you sign it to me and Kobe, Kobbi? And I'll give you leeway to say anything else.
Former newsroom friends of mine, the Blairs.
Heather Kmetz will want it actually signed live over Bubblies.
Oh, we'll definitely,
Oh.
you know, we're going to make that happen.
Okay. On the flip side. Ryan Deckert requests to Uncle Lou and Aunt Jeannie, please. I can spell that for you if you got it.
You got it, my friend.
All right. Order, looking forward to picking it up. The second dose can be a little rough. Yeah, that's what we're hearing. Zane says, Dana, I am ordering mine from Andy Bloom's tonight as well. If you could personalize it with your SSN number, any bank passwords you have handy, that would be great. Assume that's your customary book plate signing.
That's our newsroom, ladies and gentlemen, a bunch of wise asses.
Yeah, routing numbers are good too, probably. Same. So many thank yous.
Oh my gosh, thank everybody. I can't believe it. Time is a precious commodity, and it's a Thursday, for crying out loud, and it's in January. And I'm so grateful for everybody who's on this call. Very excited about this book. I've really enjoyed writing this one. This was a grand fun, so thank you.
We just have one last request here. Suzanne Hoffman, purchase complete. Please sign to me and Rick.
Woohoo!
Done.
And now we have an excellent writing suggestion from Maya Lopez. I think you should incorporate a service platypus in your next book. The platypus can have a concealed carry permit in some US states. That's really good trivia. I don't even know why there are platypi in the US, but I suppose if they relocate here,
That's
Texas.
It bothers me that you know that, Maya.
Yeah.
That's not as healthy as we think.
Kiki Dembro, please sign to Kiki and Michael.
Oh.
A million years ago, let's not either of us go there, I was Kiki's work study student at Lewis and Clark College. So we go back a tad.
Yeah. An invitation from Brian Blair to do research in Texas and get barbecue and Mexican food. Sounds good.
All right, you know it. That would be a blast.
And Kiki says you also ran into each other in Paris.
That's right, we did.
Was it in the shady neighborhood of Paris, or?
No,
Okay.
we had found out that we'd both been kind of in the same town earlier, a couple days earlier, and we'd missed each other. And then I think it was Senator Dembro texted and said, we're going to be in Paris. Want to meet there?
And Kiki spoke fluent French.
And I had forgotten this. And so we sat down at this bar, and Kiki turns and just starts rapid fire Gatling gun French to the waiter. And I'm like, oh, I totally didn't remember that you had that superpower. I'm proud to say that I can say more wine and where's the restroom in 18 languages, but that's where my language skills stop.
That's all you need.
Mm-hmm.
Cool. All right. Well, I think we are at the end here.
Oh my gosh,
All the
everybody.
signings, all the questions. Thank you.
Everybody, thank you so very much. Thank you once again to Annie Blooms. Thank you once again to my support team that's gotten me here. Janet, Devin, obviously Katie and Violet are the reason for the season. Once again, I just want to say, if you're heading into a season where you've got birthdays coming up or gifts giving coming up, Valentine's Day, think about your independent bookstore. They have been there for us in good times. These are not such good times. We need to be there for them too. And Katie's reminding me to make the ask because I'm a middle child.
Good job, Katie. Should do a puppet show now. I just put the link in the chat again. So you want to take one more stab at it, you can click that link and go and buy the book that magically hovers in the screen.
Michael, you did a great job.
Yay.
Round of applause for Michael. Thank you very much. Thank you very much for Annie Blooms. And thank you very much for everybody who joined us tonight. Been grand fun.
Thank you. Good night, everyone. Take care.
Good night, everybody.
Good
Thank
night.
you.